record. Okay, I'm going to start recording here. So we're going to make a scanner, and we'll call this one input. That's usually what I call my scanners. Equals new scanner. And scanner takes one parameter, and the parameter is some kind of input stream. And so we're going to say system.in. That's the one connected with the command line. So the command line is this black box over here. So we're going to actually have them type in over here. And then once we have our scanner set up, we have to ask the user to enter a word or a phrase. So here we use our system.out, which is the command line as well, but it's for output dot print line, or maybe just print, because we want it, just set it to the right there. And then you would say in quotes, double quotes, you would say, please enter a word or a phrase. Okay. And then maybe a space. And that should print on the command line to ask him to enter a word or a phrase. And then now it's time to get that phrase. So what we want to do is we would say input, which is our scanner. And then here's all the different ones you can call on the scanner. And there's all these next one, and we want to get a next line. We don't want to say next, because that'll just grab one word up to the next space. We actually want to grab the whole string. Okay, so I would say next line is the one we want to call, so we can choose that one. And for now, we want to put that into, we want to make a variable to store that. So maybe we put that variable up here. I think we lost somebody. We'll call it we'll call this one phrase. Yeah, Noah got kicked off, so now he's back. So we'll call this one phrase, and then that's what we're going to store in here. Is we have to store the phrase that they type in into some variable. So we've made this variable called phrase, and we're going to use that to be our data for our Hangman. Now, for now, let's just echo it back out. Maybe we print a blank line, and then we'll say we'll print out the phrase just to make sure that we're getting it in and also getting it out. Now this is complaining for some reason. I'm not sure why. Input is never closed. Oh yes, I always forget to close my input stream. So you have to say input.close. It's like anytime you open a file or an input stream, you have to close it. So it was reminding us. That's good. That's good practice. Okay, so let's run it and see what we see when we run it. I like that clearing thing. That was cool. Yeah, so it clears the screen. It looks pretty good. I haven't finished my scaffold, or my, what do they call it? The gallows yet. But now I enter my phrase. This is my phrase, right? So that's not a very well-known phrase. You want a phrase that people could guess. You might give them a category, just to help them a little bit. And I put in that blank line, and then it spits back out the phrase. Now, clearly, you don't want to have the phrase on there when the person comes back and then wants to play the game, right? So what you might want to do is change the order of things a little bit. So instead of drawing the man at the beginning, you would here, I would say after you show the phrase, then draw the man. So do the man drawing last, And then the other thing is we also want to clear the screen. I guess we clear the screen when we draw the man, so that's a problem. We want to clear the screen before we draw the man. So I guess that's okay. That'll clear the screen. Yeah, so I think this might work. Let's try it. Just thinking the order of everything, how everything's gonna work. Okay, so it doesn't clear the screen here. So just ask for the phrase. Say Skyhawks. Say that's going to be your secret word. And now the phrase is stored. We printed it out, but it didn't matter because we didn't see it. And now the other player will come back and start trying to guess, right? Their first word. Now, certainly the man won't be drawn. The man will only that'll draw based on the number of guesses they have, and it should be empty. The only thing that should really draw is the scaffold. But the other thing we have to worry about is how do we show how many letters are in the word. So after we draw the man, we also have to draw the number. I was thinking we'd use underscores would be good to show how many spaces are in the word. So we draw the man. Maybe we print another blank line after we draw the man, and then again, a lot of this is going to change later, but
I have
just
a question.
trying. Yeah.
Do for each statements work on strings?
Yeah, they do. If you go through the strings one letter at a time, and we're going to have to do that. So yeah, you're right. For each would work, or a for loop would work, or that's another way we could get one letter at a time. We could. Yeah, I think we'd have to use some kind of loop. For each is another one. I don't use for eaches very often because I'm just not familiar with them. But for loops and while loops are good as well. So what we need to know is the length of the string, right? Whatever the phrase was. So we would say, maybe we make a variable called num chars, which is the number of characters in this string, and then we would say phrase dot, and then we want to get the length of the phrase. I'm not understanding that though. I'm wondering why it's not giving us a list. Okay, well, I think it's length. I'm just not sure whether it's a. Yeah, it's not helping us at all. Usually it tries to help us. Let's try compiling it, see if it crashes right there. Okay, it looks like it compiled, so I guess it understood. Okay, so now what we can do is print out the number of underscores. So this is where we're going to need a for loop or a for each loop. For loop I'm going to use because I remember the syntax of that, I guess. So what a loop is, it's just it's a bunch of code that just repeats over and over again, and you repeat a certain number of times, and you have this counter. It's usually an index, and we usually use the letter I for that. But we started out at 0, and then we add 1 to it each time we go through the loop. And what we're going to do is do a system.out.print, and what we're going to print is maybe an underscore and a space for each letter in the word. Well, let's see what that looks like. Okay, I'm going to put it in Skyhawks again. Now let's count the number of spaces. Then 1, SKYHAWKS. Yeah, it looks like we've got the number of spaces. Now you can think of something else, and if you can find the code for putting a box there, if you want to show boxes, you could show. I don't know how else you do hyphens, I guess, and then they'd fill in the letter, and then I guess at this point, this is where we'd ask them to guess a letter, right? but we'll do that next time. But we're starting to see our Hangman game starting kind of come together. What I'll do is I'll try to tidy this up, so for next time it's a little bit more organized. And then the next step to think about it would be, how do we accept a letter or a guess from the user? How do we show? And what's going to happen with that guess is you either include it in the string because it's part of the string, or you show it off to the side that's already been used. Okay. And so we're going to have to figure that out. And then that's one other thing we have to worry about on the guess is if they actually guess the same letter again, that doesn't count. You have to say, hey, you already guessed that letter. And then also we have to be careful about capitalization. The capitalization shouldn't matter. Okay. So we have lots to worry about the next part. But maybe what I would do is if you could finish up this scaffold, and then what we'll do is maybe next time we'll work on drawing the man based on the number of guesses, and then after that we'll start processing the guesses, and then we'll have something that's kind of working hopefully in the next couple of classes. I'll post this video out there, so if you miss any part of the coding here, let me just show you what we have here. There's our scanner, and then here's what we have on the other source file. All right. If you get stuck, send me an email and I'll get you unstuck. We can work together. There's a share button here on the Replit. So if you just, we can set up a time to do like a Zoom call, or we can just work together on the share and chat. I think there's a way to chat. We can do it that way too. But we're going to leave it there for today because I have to run off to my other class. Any questions before I go today? All right, it's a quiet group today. Well, thank you for coming. Hopefully that was clear. I'll try to get an understanding of this this function that clears the screen. That's really kind of slick, and so thank you, Jacob, for finding that. I'll see if I can get an understanding of how that works. I'm thinking it's using Unicode or something. I don't know, or maybe secret Java commands that I'm unaware of. But I'll be curious to see how we do that. But now we have a nice clear screen. And this is how we used to do programming way back when. All we had was the command line. There was no windows or buttons or graphic elements or anything. So we had to do stuff like this to make games. And this is kind of fun too, kind of retro game. I kind of like that. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming. I appreciate it. You have a good rest of the day, and I'll see everyone on Thursday.